1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Jacobs. Welcome to the Sales Hacker Podcast. Today we've got the last of 3 interviews that we conducted while we were on a lovely yacht, the Affinity Yacht in the Hudson River for the Revenue Collective Executive Offsite. Today we've got the co-founder and CEO of a venture-backed talent company called SV Academy. His name's Rahim Fazal. I really liked this interview with Rahim. He walks us through what they're doing at SV Academy, which is really deconstructing some of the stereotypes around the types of people that are relevant and a good fit for a career in sales. And I think if you've listened to this podcast, you know that most of the people that I interview did not intend to have a career in sales. Most of them have wildly different backgrounds, some from communications backgrounds, some of them were political science majors, some of them were going to go to law school. And so many people ended up in this world of sales. Now, within the sort of the SDR hiring universe, the universe of sort of like the conventional wisdom about who you should hire into early and entry-level sales roles, there's a lot of almost like old pre-Moneyball style wisdom about what made a great baseball player. There's this whole conventional wisdom around the fact that you should hire somebody that played, athletics, maybe lacrosse or football or basketball at a like tier 2 kind of like junior Ivy school, maybe get like the captain of the football team from Holy Cross or the lacrosse player from Bucknell or something like that. And, candidly, I admit I've been guilty of some of those stereotypes. So it's really interesting how Rahim systematically breaks down those stereotypes through process, through better systems to discover who's going to be great at sales and who's going to be great at a career in sales. And that's the nature of our conversation today. So I hope you enjoy it. Before we get there, we want to thank our sponsors. Our first sponsor is LucidChart. LucidChart's sales solution is the leading account planning platform for modern sales organizations. With LucidChart, you can visually map out key contacts and crucial account data to uncover critical insights that will allow you to close bigger deals faster. Go to lucidchart.com/sales for more information. Our second sponsor is Outreach. That's Outreach.io, the leading sales engagement platform. The team at Outreach wrote the sales engagement book, literally. We gave that away at the Revenue Collective Offsite, so please do pick up that book on Amazon if you haven't had a chance. Outreach supports sales reps by enabling them to humanize their communications at scale. From automating the soul-sucking manual work that eats up selling time to providing action-oriented tips on what communications are working best, Outreach has your back. Now, without further ado, let's listen to the interview with Rahim Fazal. I want to introduce Rahim Fazal, so let me just pull up his bio. Rahim started a company called SV Academy, which we're going to talk about because a lot of people in this room are looking to hire SDRs, and Rahim can help you. Now, he's the founder of several SaaS software companies, including most recently Involver, an enterprise social media platform which was acquired by Oracle, Mazel, and is now part of the Oracle Marketing Cloud. Post-sale, he spent 3 years in various executive roles with the global field inside sales and product development organizations. He is a first-generation immigrant. He grew up in government housing until the age of 12. He was not cut out for McDonald's. They fired him, and he dropped out of college. A few years ago, he received an Impact 100 award at the White House from Startup America and the Kauffman Foundation. He's top 30 under 30 in America by Inc. magazine, 40 under 40 by the SF Business Times, and one of the top 25 digital thought leaders by iMedia. Welcome, Rahim.
All right, thank you.
We're excited to have you. So, first of all, awesome that you started Involver. But tell us about SV Academy. What is SV Academy? And you've got some news, so share it with the audience as well.
Yeah. So essentially, we help fast-growing companies accelerate SDR hiring. We're kind of bringing the intersection of training and recruiting into an education model. We started with sort of 3 seats every month in San Francisco a couple of years ago. We then went to 15, and now we've got about 100 starting every month. So
when you say starting every month, so tell us, what is the framework? What is the business model? You're taking raw, unformed clay and turning it into SDRs. Is that the context?
Yeah, that's the idea. That if we all in this room think about the way that we got into sales ourselves, most of us have a pretty unconventional path. We didn't necessarily take a major at college that sort of brought us into this world. Like that, there are millions of job seekers out there who are not even applying for the SDR position because they've never heard of it. Or if they have heard about it, there's a level of imposter syndrome. They've had a bad experience trying to send a resume, might send 100 or 200 resumes out. We get this all the time. And the elitism in the recruiting systems will often overlook people who don't have backgrounds. Like, for example, like I used to have conversations with employers where they would say, oh, you can help me with SDR hiring? Great. I'm looking for someone who's graduated from a top 20 school with a 4.0 GPA, who's also like a white male lacrosse player, basically.
Those are the only people that make good SDRs. What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. So we essentially are a place for a lot of the non-traditional talent, folks who are have some education, may have a state school education. Most likely, it's in social sciences or business. We've had people who have kind of done pre-med and law, folks who are looking to career shift. They've made a decision, didn't really like where it's taken them, and they just need a place to start. And we will give them all the training and all the support that they need over a 3-month period before hire. So it's sort of a 3-month interview, which includes an internship, at the end of which the ones who make it all the way through, they're rigorously vetted at this point. We'll then match them with employers who are hiring at that point. We also do evaluation of employers as well, because we want to make sure that the employers who are hiring will also be a good fit. And then we continue to support the hires for the first 12 months on the job. So we have some customers who are in the room, like CB Insights and Sixth Sense and Suzy, and we're working with those hiring managers to support the SDRs, not just through an onboarding process, but all the way up to the first year. And the goal is, and so far, 70% of folks who have graduated from our program and gone into the SDR position are being promoted in that first 12 months.
Wow. So where do you find these folks? How do they become aware of SV Academy?
Yeah, so word of mouth has become big. Once someone's successful, they'll put to get a job offer from an employer, in the room here, it's such a life-changing event for them. So they will tell everyone they know. And it just so happens that, they often know people who are looking to maybe pursue the same path. So a lot of it is word of mouth. We also have partnerships with universities. And then we get a lot of referrals from actually industry people who will say, I'm mentoring this person, or I came across this person, or sometimes like I want to hire this person, but they just don't have, any experience. And do you mind if they, why don't they apply to your program? And if they get through, then I'd love to hire them. We have an admissions rate of about 1.5%. So we'll get somewhere around 1,000 applications every week, and we're choosing, the best sort of 15.
I'm sure you're putting them through a 3-month program.
Yeah.
You've decided that white male lacrosse player is not the only.
Not the only.
Not the only.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe those people can be good, but other people can be good too.
Yeah.
So what is it that makes somebody good? What are the things? You said that there's a certain. It's like the Navy SEALs. A bunch of people start at the beginning of the 3-month program. There's a group of people that make it to the end.
Yeah.
What are the common themes? What are the behavioral qualities? And maybe give us some data or some insights.
Yeah.
That you've assessed or observed.
Yeah. I mean, the sort of the meta learning that we've had, we've evaluated maybe 25,000 applicants. We've got about 300 folks who have graduated from the program, 60% women, 40% African American, Latinx, from all around the country. The biggest thing we've learned is that someone's ability to manage the cognitive dissonance between how difficult these jobs can be, particularly in your first year, and the potential outcome of where it can take you in your career. If you're like bought into that, if you can manage those two things like in parallel, you will.
Those two things meaning the job may suck, but but putting it in context and saying this is part of a journey.
That's right.
It's not about instant gratification.
That's it. And so evaluating for that is very difficult if you haven't done the job before, which is the value that we provide to the employers that work with us. We will test for this in a very structured way over a period of 12 weeks. And it's a combination of very sort of intentionally designed curricula and then project-based learning, which includes actually picking up the phone and dialing and getting rejected and doing it over and over again. There's also a whole layer of coaching that happens. both in terms of communication coaches. So we've got a whole stable of communication coaches and a stable of mindset coaches. And so we will support, if you get into the program, if you're good enough to get in, we will surround you with all of the support necessary for you to get all the way through. But even after doing all of that and investing, because we will forward invest about $10,000 in each of the people who get into the program, even after that investment that we're making without any guarantee that we're ever going to get paid for that, still not everybody makes it through. And it's most often because they give up.
They ring the bell.
Yeah, just they hit a wall. Some make it through, some hit a wall. And that actually happens not just during the pre-hire part of the program, but also afterwards. So
is it possible to predict who will give up?
We're getting better at this. The more people who go through the program, the larger data set that we're sitting on, and we can start to see some patterns. It is a volume game. We need to have pretty significant volume. We're getting there now, which is that big announcement was that we closed a $10 million Series A.
Congratulations.
Just a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, thank you. For a model that not every investor understands. One of the reasons why we did receive this investment from phenomenal investors, including our big seed investor, Bloomberg Beta, is that we are beginning to solve for this now. And how we're able to, the way we're able to sort of demonstrate that is more and more people are making it through the program than they ever were before. And it's still, a couple percent every cohort. We've run 25 cohorts.
And when you say more and more people are making it through, that means you're doing a better job of selecting them at the outset, or the program itself is better?
Selection for sure. I mean, the more the SV Academy word gets out, the higher volume, higher quality candidates we get. But a really big part, a disproportionate part, and this was a big learning for me, is that it's not just selection. It is a lot about training and assessment. And it's not just about weeding people out. So I was at Oracle for 3 years, spent a bunch of time with Oracle Digital, which is their big inside team. The model there was very churn and burn. And if someone sort of can't make it, they try to figure that out as early as possible and kick them out. What we've learned is that if we can assess correctly and match the right intervention at the right time, then we can support people in ways or at times in that life cycle where they otherwise would have given up. And what I find is that those folks who do end up pushing through, the ones who do have challenges, and they end up being the best SDRs. They're the ones who end up getting promoted faster into AE and customer success positions. So it's not just about selection is important, and it's really important for us, but like the magic of SV Academy is in the training, in the education, and getting smarter and more intelligent about how we do that, sitting on all of the data points that we do, like tens of thousands of data points we have of people who have gone through this program, over 25 cohorts, and we have seen not just how they do through the pre-hire part, but also how do they do in the field. So we have a feedback loop with the managers who hire from us in this room. We talk to them at least once a month about how their hires are performing. And sometimes they're performing so well that they actually need support to get them prepared for their next position. Sometimes it's because they're struggling, and we've understood a lot of the problems keep coming up over and over, and we see them and know what works, and then we're able to sort of fine-tune how we solve for that, even post-hire, which is, like, I think, really special.
That is really special, and it's very humanistic, aspirational, optimistic, because there is a mantra of fire fast, and sort of this idea that, like, essentially implicit in the idea is that people are not changeable, and that investing in development is not a worthwhile investment because people basically are who they are.
I think we could all, in this room listening to the podcast, can all think about a person in our lives at some point in time who believed in us, right? That we credit to helping us, get through the unthinkable, the unimaginable. We want to be that for millions of job seekers. We want to play that role for folks, and we know that it works.
Diversity is really important, and I think it's an important focus of yours. We did it was like a webinar, I guess, earlier this week, and the emphasis of the webinar was that diversity without inclusion can actually be negative both to the person and to the organization. How do you screen these organizations, they may say that they're looking to hire candidates representing diversity, but they don't have a culture or a program to make those people feel welcome when they join. Are you screening that, or is that just, a pitfall or an outcome that you sort of have to tolerate?
Well, we recognize that a big part of inclusion is where someone coming from an underrepresented background goes to a company where they see someone like themselves. And that could mean a lot of different things. It's not just gender and sort of color of your skin, for example, but it's also socioeconomics, right? Some of the best salespeople have come from government housing like me, right? But as I've said before, a lot of the chatter we used to have at Oracle, for example, was, oh yeah, like, what's your handicap? Like, what courses do you like to play at? I'm like, I've never played golf in my life. Golf's not something that I ever grew up with. I don't know anybody that knows how to golf, really, when I was
I don't know how to golf either.
You too? All right, well, the two of us can go to the arcade or something.
We can not play golf together.
Yeah. So I think it's multidimensional. So what do we do? I think our vision is, we understand a lot of companies are interested in this. They know that they have to start somewhere. So start somewhere. We will help you do it. It's always helpful, and it's good for our business model if you hire 2 or 3 people at a time, because then you get a pod, right? And they can support each other, right? And what will naturally emerge from there is a culture of more inclusivity. When someone comes in for an interview, hopefully they'll be interviewed by somebody who has a similar background as them. And that makes a huge difference. Often we have had feedback from our graduates who've said, yeah, I'm not sure I really want to go work at that company, even after, let's say, receiving an offer, because of something related to the culture. They had a bad experience during the interview process. And in my mind, I'm thinking, you're entry level, you've got to get started. Like, you got to hustle. But I'm appreciating more and more the importance of inclusivity, and you have to do it intentionally. And I think it starts with diversity. Like, it starts with the diversity, and then you'll have the privilege of an inclusivity problem.
Well put. The SDR world is changing. I'm interested in how in touch do you feel like you have to be with the role, because the role in the organization is evolving constantly all the time. As certain outreach channels wither, as marketing takes over some people and calls them MDRs sometimes, there's not, and as other people feel like, you know what? I mean, I've even heard people that's saying we're moving to full stack, back to full stack reps. We don't want SDRs because our reps no longer know how to prospect. How are you going to be positioned to take advantage or sort of, work on or adapt to those evolutions?
So if you zoom out for a bit, the reason why we have such a institutional problem in higher education is because, the schools haven't done a great job of keeping up with the needs of employers. So we're talking about a very specific career path and role today in an industry that's evolving very quickly. It is very, very, very difficult for a traditional education model to keep up with it. So, for example, a lot of the colleges that we work with who do not have sales programs, most of colleges do not have a sales program, their academic review cycle is 24 months, right? So there's so much that changes in 24 months. There is no way they could possibly keep up with the demand. Our review cycle is every 30 days. And so what's happening is we have this now large community of managers and graduates who are out in the field. As we continue to support them, as I said, we're collecting a lot of data around what's working. One thing that we ask a lot about are, what tech stack do you use? How has that changed? What do workflows look like? How have workflows changed? And we're constantly staying on top of this and then reviewing it, synthesizing, implementing, figuring out how to test for it properly in the program, and just repeating it over and over and over again. We've done it 25 times now.
Anything particularly interesting to you in terms of how things are changing that, sort of emerges in terms of how people are reaching out, what technology they're using that you just sort of found exciting or interesting?
We talked about it a little bit today, I think, with Sendoso, for example. I mean, we've had a bunch of our customers use Sendoso for direct marketing, and they've just become really intelligent about where in the life cycle, right, prospecting life cycle, they use it. And the interesting thing is that the SDRs and BDRs are sort of the closest to, often they have the sort of their finger on the pulse around what it is, like what is the right gift or what's the right surprise to really delight somebody with. And it's actually neat because at a broader level, the folks who are at the very top of the funnel, who are interacting with the most folks, they may be entry-level people. Most people in their lives have probably not given them a lot of attention. All of a sudden now, they can play a more strategic role in decision-making with their hiring manager or skip boss. And that's we know they absolutely love it. The fact that they can sit down with the CEO or the head of sales and they have something valuable to offer because of the thousands of conversations they're having with folks every day is not just incredibly gratifying, but it also keeps them very motivated and is often like a source of a lot of like ingenuity and creative ideas that otherwise wouldn't have come up, just like a lot of the direct marketing.
Yeah, so it's exciting. Your business model. Last question for me. Is your business model, is it contingency search? Is that how you charge? To the point, I would imagine that that's not typically a business that is capable of raising venture capital. Walk us through what is the big idea that Owl Ventures or Bloomberg Beta saw, and just confirm to us how you charge in case we want to become customers.
Yeah, so we don't charge anything to the students, which allows us to open access to these career pathways and this training to folks who otherwise you'd never see, and they would likely not even work in the industry. So we've never charged a student. There's no cost to students. Okay. Employers pay on a recruiting model, and it's sort of traditional recruiting, but you're getting so much more along with it. Not just the guarantee, but also the continued support, all of the vetting, the pre-training, et cetera, et cetera. So we look at it as a 10x solution over what traditional recruiting is like, particularly for early stage roles where there's not a lot of data that as a hiring manager have, because often they've not done the job before, right? So that's how the model works. In terms of the big,
do you feel pressure to turn that into recurring revenue somehow? And call yourself SaaS
through this fundraising process.
Do you have a website?
I cannot tell you. Yeah, exactly.
You can be SaaS if you have a website.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, especially just coming from a SaaS background, like there are some potentially exciting ways that we can go from a transactional model to a more relationship and ongoing model, which is in part why we raised this money, because we feel confident that we can, with this money, take a few bets and create a lot of damage with them. Yeah. What we're noticing is that, in terms of the big idea, is that there are entry-level positions available across many different industries across the entire country, across the entire world, where there's a tremendous amount of sort of supply-demand mismatch. And there's been a lot of focus on venture investing in technical skills, specifically coding, software development. In terms of human skills, human-centered skill development, massive under-indexing, right? So our vision of the world is with increased automation, and I think we are all great representations of this, right? We have lucrative careers here in this room and listening to the podcast because we have figured out a way of augmenting or extending our capabilities with technology, not replacing them. And that's a really fucking big idea. Like, it's a huge idea. It's far more interesting to me than software development, because there are a small percentage of folks who have sort of the right interest and foundational skill set and so on to become great software developers. Far, far, far more people who could become great sales leaders. They just need a chance.
I love it. Questions from the audience? Kevin? Yeah. Kevin from Zoom Info.
So we hire and source most of our SDRs just internally with our own groups. And one of the things that we really like to do is just get them on the phone as quickly as possible. So after 2 weeks of training and watching recordings and so on, they're on the phone the third week. So when they're going through a 3-month onboarding program, like, how quickly are they having like real conversations where they're kind of battle tested before they work with one of your customers?
Around week 4, week 5. Okay. We've tested it right at the beginning, and we've tested it right at the end. We found week 4, week 5 is the right place to do it for us, because it's not just about knowledge transfer, it's also about confidence building. And if someone has a bad experience on the phone the first time, it could turn them away forever. And that's a false negative, right? we found week 4, week 5, that's the right time frame for us. And so they spend a lot of time then, therefore, all the way through the end of the program on the phones. And some of them keep on the phones even while they're interviewing, just for extra practice. And they're doing it, for different employer partners. So also interested if there are, employers in the room, not just hiring, but also becoming part of the curriculum. There's some partnerships that we'll announce now that we've announced the fundraising where we started to do this. And we work, for example, with Palo Alto Networks and Talend, who are internship partners of ours. And we're always looking for additional partners as well, because there's a lot of value there, a lot of value for people who have never had that experience before.
You said you accept 15 of 1,000 applicants. What does that earlier stage screening process look like? What are you screening out? What are you kind of allowing in when you don't have like a fully built out resume or that experience, and you're trying to source from underrepresented backgrounds?
So there are a number of sort of fundamental things that probably we would all do here, right? Or if we had the time and the space, we would. So, for example, we are looking sort of a baseline sort of level of cognition, baseline communication skills, right? Both verbal and written. I would say the big thing that we do is testing for people's commitment, and this goes back to the sort of understanding if they can manage the cognitive dissonance between how hard the job is and what the payoff is. So folks will go through typically a 25 to 30 hour admissions process to get into SV Academy. Because it's free, we're able to run them through the hoops, and many of them are very excited to do that. And it's the first time that they're having an opportunity to not just learn about the position and the industry, which is something often they didn't know before, but also to demonstrate their candidacy in a way that's beyond a resume. Most of our applicants do not have LinkedIn profiles because what are they going to put on it? They don't feel like employers will value, for example, my McDonald's story. I never talked about getting fired from McDonald's until I sold a company, right? A couple of companies.
Then it was cool.
Yeah. But it's like, now I can talk about this stuff that I grew up in government housing, and because I can do that. It's easier, and I don't think people will judge or evaluate me in the same way they might have otherwise. It still happens, right? But that's how we ultimately do it. 25 to 30 hours, testing for a number of baseline competencies, and then the real big one is commitment to the outcome. Will they turn an assignment in when they say they're going to, or on the deadline? Like, are they a minute late, 2 minutes late, a minute early for an interview? There's a lot of different. We have a lot of time and space, so we're able to do a lot of evaluation, both online and in live.
Rahim, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way? How do we become customers of SV Academy?
All right. So first of all, follow me on Twitter, at Rahim the Dream. It's a great way to keep in touch with my musing.
What do you tweet about?
I talk all about all
Politics?
this stuff. I mean, oh no, I hate politics. I can't even vote in this country. But I talk a lot about the future of work, the intersection of future of work and future of education. I care about it deeply. So I talk a lot about that. We have a couple of people from the team, Jeanne and John, who actually went through our program and are graduates of our program. So who better to talk to? There are also some employers here, like Evan at Suzy and Sixth Sense and CB Insights, and they're happy customers, and they'll share what their stories are. There's no risk to get signed up with SV Academy. So
where do we go to sign up if we're listening on the podcast and want to apply to become a student?
Yeah, so sv.academy/employers. We have a landing page there. You can also email me directly, which is Rahim, RAHIM, @SV, as in Silicon Valley, sv.academy.
Awesome. Rahim, thanks so much for being here. Thanks for being on the show.
Hey folks, Sam's Corner, Sam Jacobs. Hope you liked that interview. That was perhaps my favorite interview from that day on the boat. I think Rahim brings, first of all, again, first generation immigrant into the United States. What a great country we've got still, despite everything that's going on, that people can come to this country and within 1 or 2 generations, they are CEOs of companies. They are building venture-backed businesses. That's simply incredible. And I'm so excited for what Rahim is building. Now, if you listened again, one of the things that we talked about, which I mentioned at the intro, is breaking down the stereotypes around what types of people are going to be good at sales. It's not just liberal arts college athletes. It's not just people that play lacrosse or squash or basketball or baseball or swam, although those people do have the discipline, I think, many times, but it's not just those people. There are so many people, so many underrepresented groups, people of color, people from different economic backgrounds that aren't going to get to go to Bucknell and play lacrosse. And so we need systems to identify what are the character qualities, what are the character attributes that are going to help people become great sales leaders and become great sales professionals. And I think what they're doing at SV Academy through the program that they've got is really, really interesting. There's so much innovation happening on the talent side, not just SV Academy, but so many different companies that are focused on, let me try and identify different types of people that are going to be great in the sales function, not just the common people that already have an easy entranceway into the world of kind of white collar sales. But how do we identify different types of people with different backgrounds, people that may have worked in a variety of kind of like service jobs or low wage jobs or don't have the same educational background, but we can identify certain character attributes that show us that those people are going to be hungry, that they're coachable, that they want to learn, and that they want to succeed. And I think that that's so important as we seek to give the same kinds of opportunities that Rahim had and even better opportunities to all of the people out there that are potentially jewels and diamonds in the rough, people that are going to be great contributors. We just need a process stripped of unconscious bias and stripped of stereotype that helps identify the great qualities within people, wherever they're from, whatever their backgrounds. So I really like the mission that SV Academy is on, and I'm a supporter of them, and I've recommended them to people, and they've done great work, and people have ended up hiring really fantastic SDR and BDR candidates through SV Academy. So I'm a big supporter. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks to Rahim for being on the show. Before we go, we want to thank our sponsors. That's Lucid Chart Sales Solution, the leading account planning platform for modern sales organizations, and Outreach, the leading sales engagement platform. If you want to reach out to me, hopefully at this point you know where to go, but it's linkedin.com/Sam F. Jacobs. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I should say. Yes, please rate the show. Please give us 5 stars on iTunes. Other than that, I'm done. I'll talk to you next time.